Just by way of an introduction, I'm Heath Cabot, the new faculty member in anthropology, and this is my first year at COA, so we'll find out. Anyway. When Sarah Luke kindly invited me to speak at the ceremony, I was genuinely intimidated. What could I possibly say to all of you, these groomed, graceful, and poised human ecologists who've just completed a truly brilliant set of senior projects? And here I am, still trying to figure out what COA and human ecology are all about. And then I realized that it was only 11 years ago that I was in your shoes, celebrating my graduation with my family around me. And I remember well the excitement, giddy disorientation, the bitter sweetness, and the faint anxiety. And now, 11 years later, here I am, having just completed the very first year of my very first real, legitimate job. Yes. A lot of things have happened since. When I first finished college in Chicago, I went off to San Francisco just at the tail end of the dot-com boom. And I was not dot-comming, but actually working in a ski shop, probably more for the discounts on ski gear than to pay the rent, actually. That was just as important as paying the rent. And this country looked very different then. We were still coasting on the wake of the golden years of the 90s. And this was before 9/11 and before the US became, again, a country at war. And I have since, in small increments, grown up. I've gotten a PhD in anthropology. I spent a few years in Greece and various parts of Europe studying immigration and political asylum, and I met my husband, Salvatore. And these past 11 years have been full of hard work and adventure, serious study, encounters with fascinating people from all over the world, and wonderful but often exhausting travel. I have also been so very privileged to have been paid to do what I love to do, to study what I love, to have mentors who believe in me, and friends and family who ground me. But I have overall valued breadth over depth in my growth, accumulating a diversity of experiences and conversations like the diligent but slightly restless anthropologist that I've become. And as I told my husband Salvatore shortly after we met, I want to make decisions that make my world bigger, not smaller, that open up possibilities rather than closing them down. And here I am at my very first real job, a tiny college on the coast of Maine with 300 or so students and a group of colleagues who fit around a large seminar table. And I'll admit it, I felt like this was a little bit of a risk when I came here, and still sometimes it feels that way. But when I visited for my job interview, the students and faculty engaged me in the most exciting and passionate set of discussions I had had for a while. And this was while I was a postdoc at Princeton, that world-famous bastion of intellectual activity. And I came away knowing that something special was happening here, though I'm still learning exactly what that entails. And so here I am, and in just 1 year, I've been so amazed at the richness and diversity of experiences and conversations to be found in this small place. And not just that, I've also been reminded again of how learning takes you on often circuitous routes, that it's never possible to predict where you will end up, but the North Star of yourself and those around you often make extraordinary things happen. And I've learned these lessons this year mainly from my students. My very first class here at the college was about blood, which for some reason I thought would be a nice human ecological way to kick off my time here. But honestly, I didn't really know what was going to happen with it. And as I muddled my way through my first term, the students patiently and oh so generously showed me what we were learning together. And at the end, they articulated a fascinating set of insight, as cohesive as they were wide-ranging. As one student explained, the topic of the class was the ticket in the door, but it was the conversations that mattered. Without fail, every class has been that way. The students themselves tell me what it's really about. And I'm increasingly amazed to see the grace and facility with which COA students will make meaning out of even the most seemingly obscure and unrelated set of ideas and show us how they are somehow related. And so I've been really pushed and challenged to develop a new set of qualities. I've had to slowly let go of trying to exert control over knowledge in the classroom and instead spend more time asking questions. And then I've had to let things go like releasing a toy boat downstream. And that was the image I thought about. And the trick is, of course, to let things happen and to trust that they will happen, which is sometimes still hard. And this is where I want to end up, shifting gears slightly. As some of you may have known, one of the more amazing elements of my new situated lifestyle here is that we've been able to adopt a dog, Fritz, the sweet, smart, if somewhat anxious dachshund. That's Fritz. We hadn't planned this far ahead, actually. And he made himself known earlier, in case you hadn't, those were his barks. In my class last week, we discussed an article by Donna Haraway, the feminist philosopher of science, who's partially responsible for making my own PhD alma mater, UC Santa Cruz, a little bit more famous than it was. She explains that her experiences walking her dogs inspired her theory of what she calls situated knowledge. She locates this in a sense of wonder, brought on by imagining, quote, how the world looks without a fovea and very few retinal cells for color vision, but with a huge neural processing and sensory area for smells. This wonder generated for her a new, ethically grounded appreciation for the diversity and partialness of perspectives, and for how they link up in no systematic way with other ways of knowing and being in the world. What emerges, she argues, is a kind of knowledge that is, quote, situated, relational, contextualized, and responsible in that it is answerable to others. Such knowledge is grounded on a profound humility on the one hand, but also on courage and a serious commitment to playing, again, in a serious way, with ideas and with other beings, both human and non-human. And finally, it's about seeing, experiencing, and respecting the place where you are in its wondrous complexity. And as one of my students today said in my ethnography class, learning should start from where you are, which I saw as hooking up very closely with that. So these are some of the lessons I've learned this year through my encounters with COA students and, yes, my dog, which have indeed served to open up and broaden my world, and even changed it a little bit, perhaps. And in that spirit, I wanted to close with 5 more lessons learned, these also from Fritz, that I wanted to send you off with into the big world. So bear with me. 1, if you want to be in someone's lap, just ask. just bear with me, Forgiveness. 2, it's always a good idea to go rambling in the woods with just your nose to guide you. 3, extraordinary affection and entrenched stubbornness are a powerful combination. 4, short legs do not necessarily make for small adventures, and being small should never stop you from speaking against bigger, more powerful dogs. And finally, and without fail, make time to play every single day and make others play with you, even and especially if they may not think they're in the mood.